My name's Alex Kuhn, and I'm running for the at-large seat that's open this year on November 8th for the Mason City City Council, and I'm very excited. Before I start talking about myself and my ideas, first want to introduce you to two of the three biggest supporters I have. If you want to put your hand up back there, Melissa. This is my wife, Melissa. And the youngest of our two boys, Colin. Say hi, Colin. Our oldest, Rylan, is with the in-laws. So, with that, there's the hardest person to convince to run for city council right there. But I'm glad to say she's here today. I wanted to introduce you guys. But today, I want to accomplish four things. I want to introduce everyone to me. Explain a little bit about my history, who I am, talk about my ideas today, some of the things, my vision if I was elected to the city council. The third thing I want to do is tell you why I'm running, why I decided to do this, and the last one, which is probably the most important thing, is to listen to your ideas, and I'll be taking notes and hearing your ideas and suggestions and taking questions at the end, so I'll try to keep my part brief. But people have asked me, why am I running? So. I really do believe that the Mason City Council needs some positive leadership. I think we have some amazing things in this town, and we just have to get a group together that's not going to agree every single time, but it's going to treat each other with respect and talk about issues, and at the end of the day we'll resolve the personal issues and put those aside and talk about the future of Mason City. But I feel my life experiences have taught me the value of hard work, respect, working cooperatively to accomplish common goals, and we need to put the divisiveness aside to accomplish common goals for Mason City, and I'm up to the challenge. And I believe I can add value to the Mason City City Council, and I'll talk about some specific ideas I have here in just a little bit. But I've always had a passion for public service, and I've been going around town, and I've talked to a lot of friends and colleagues and neighbors and talk about I'm thinking about doing this, and this might sound a little dramatic, but I've always kind of lived by this quote for, I don't know, maybe the past 10, 15 years, that every morning I have to wake up and I have to shave, and I have to look myself in the eye and make sure I'm doing things for the right reason, and I know I am doing this for the right reason, and doing it for the community and the betterment of Mason City, and I'm very excited about it. It's where me and my wife are going to live here the rest of our lives, and want to see a bright future for our kids, and maybe want to come back and live here someday after they graduate college. So, but yeah, the Mason City City Council, people are saying, oh, you want to get into politics, you know, things can get dirty. I truly don't see the city council as politics. In my life, I grew up in a family where community service is very important, volunteering is very important, and I really just see this as an extension of that. I've always volunteered, I've always been on boards and commissions, and to me this is just an extension of community service that happens to be on a ballot this November. So that's the way I'm going to look at it, and not as politics. So, but the first thing I said at my announcement, and thank you Matt for being there and KIMC for being there, was I'm going to run a 100% positive campaign. No matter who gets in the race, I look forward to whoever that may be. But I'm going to talk about issues. I'm not going to make personal attacks, because if I do have the honor of being elected, my first council meeting, it's going to do me no good to have spent months being negative. I'm going to have to get out there and talk about my ideas and my vision and what I think I could do, and work with the council members. So that's why I'm running. So I think I've accomplished one thing. The second one, a little bit about myself. I used to work for United Way, so I feel like I've met a lot of people in the community, but I don't know everybody. So I really just want to tell people a little bit about myself and tell you a little bit about my story. I grew up in Charles City on a family farm about 5 miles south of Charles City with my parents and my older brother Jason. Went to Iowa State University, and people get this a lot, and some of the people in my current position at Hinkle Construction always say, okay, you went to school for political science and education, you got a teaching license to teach government, and now you do business development for a construction company. How did that happen? So I'll try to explain that. But went to Iowa State University, studied political science and education, and When I was 22 years old, going on 23, I had it was a pretty dramatic event in our family's life that really changed my life forever. My father, Mark Kuhn, who used to be a state legislator and now is a Floyd County supervisor, had a pretty serious farm accident. And I was finishing up my student teaching, just about to graduate from Iowa State, when this happened. And at that point, the biggest worry on my mind was, what shirt I was going to wear that night. And overnight, I made some pretty, I shouldn't say overnight, but made some pretty big decisions. Married my wife, came back to the farm, had to take over the harvest that year with our neighbors. And like I said, I've always been very involved in the community and think it's important to volunteer, but I just want to tell a real quick story about when it really hit home. This picture here, I carry these around and tell a lot of people about this. This picture here is after the farm accident. And these are a picture of our neighbors south of Charles City in rural Floyd County who came together, helped out our family and me to finish up the harvest. And that year, when my dad, he fell from a grain bin and ruptured both his quadricep tendons and was in a wheelchair for a number of months. So myself and our neighbors finished up the harvest that year. That was my senior year at Iowa State. This picture is my dad's senior year at Iowa State University, when my dad's dad, my grandpa, had a serious farm accident when he was a senior at Iowa State. He fell from our 1890 Oliver tractor and was run over, and my dad had to come home from Iowa State and take over the farm. This happened to me. And these are the pictures of the same neighbors, and a lot of these people are these people's parents. And the reason I tell that story is because it just goes to show the community service. You don't have to be involved in a big organization all the time. It's just, sometimes it's as small as just helping your neighbors. So I always think that's a pretty cool story. And kind of the moral of the story is when Ryland's a senior at Iowa State, I'm staying away from video. I'm going to take a year off farming that year, so the hired man will be doing a lot of work that year. So, but no, I think that's a pretty cool story, and it's always kind of stuck with me about doing what's right and just helping your neighbors. But yeah, some of the other things I'm proud of that I've done, or excuse me, I should say, then after I came back and took over and helped with the farm that year, went down and worked in the legislature for my dad for 2 sessions in Iowa House of Representatives. Down there really learned what it means to stand up for people in government, people that don't have a voice. We worked on issues, people that had disabilities that didn't have access to the Capitol. And something that always stuck with me, people probably know this story, when people couldn't get into the Capitol, they couldn't get out, and people with wheelchairs didn't have access to petition the people in their government. And there was going to be a day of advocacy for people with disabilities. Now, I won't say the legislator's name, but I remember he said, well, maybe we should just cancel the event and not have it. And I always just thought that was so wrong, that we need to fix these problems and make sure the people that want to get there and talk to their elected officials can, and that's something that's always really stuck with me. After that, I worked for United States Senator Tom Harkin for 2 years in his Des Moines office as a mobile office coordinator, which basically means I drove around a glorified tour van around the state of Iowa and talked about federal issues to people in all 99 counties. And that really taught me a lot about transparency and getting out and talking to people, and that was a very good job I had there. And then I made a couple good decisions. Came home, moved back to North Iowa, bought part of our farm, and moved back to Mason City. And then when I came back, I actually didn't have a full-time job. But I ended up teaching every single day in the Mason City School District on different long-term sub-positions. One of the teachers, I think I did a pretty decent job taking over a classroom, Laura Gromish in the German room. She might say otherwise, but taught for a year at the Mason City Schools. After that, I coordinated the McNider Art Festival. When I was there, I feel bad because people always say, the year you coordinated the art festival, the attendance was horrible. Well, it was June 8th, 2008. That's the day of the festival. So that hurt the attendance a little bit. But when I was there, I met Jennifer Kammeyer, who's the executive director of United Way, and she offered me a position. I was the campaign director for United Way for 3 years. And I actually worked there for about 3 months, and all we did was clean up flood homes and coordinate volunteers to work on those. And I remember asking Jennifer, we're doing some great things here, but does United Way do anything else other than work on flood homes? And I found out we did. But that was a great job. We met so many people in the community and did a lot of positive things. And now, only 3 months now, I've been at Hinkle Construction, a great company that's been in business in Mason City for almost 120 years and worked in business development there. So, 2 of the 4, who I am, why I'm running, and now I just want to talk about a few of my ideas. And if you guys get tired of listening to me, there are some sheets up here that lay them out. I'll talk about some of the ideas that I'm interested in. The first one, I have 4 big issues that I've been talking about, and the first one is that we need to create city policy to enhance economic development and job creation. And again, if we have a council that's only worrying about bickering about personal issues and name calling, and I think if we want to talk about the big issues in economic development and talk about different programs, the state economic development director was just in Mason City talking about great initiatives. If we can't even get past the personal attacks, we have no chance of accomplishing some of these big things. But I think we really need to be a development-ready community, and that means having city policies that are business-friendly, incentive packages that are not only help businesses that might relocate or start up businesses, but most importantly, helping the current businesses we have in Mason City. And I think that's extremely important. And I think the council did something very good recently in consolidating the TIF districts, but there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And I'll talk about a couple of things I think that we could do to enhance that as well. Another something I'll be pushing if I do have the honor to be elected is promoting citizen advocacy and volunteerism. And like I've said, volunteering is something big in my life. And like I said, working at the State House and different places, I've met with those people that don't have a voice, and that's part of government, standing up for those people. And call me biased, but I maybe don't agree with Representative Mark Kuhn's ideology, but I think he's one of the best that ever walked around the Capitol as far as going back to his constituents, looking them in the eye, and telling them what he did down there, going door to door, meeting with everybody, whether you agree with them or not, and that's something that I'll definitely do. Another thing is, as far as advocacy and volunteerism, something that's troubling in my mind, and I think we need to correct, is that mentality right now in the city council that you're either in this camp or you're in this camp, and there's no in between. Well, folks, if I'm elected, that's just not what you're going to get. I'm not in anyone's camp. I wasn't recruited. This is something I did on my own terms, and I'll represent people if I have the chance to be elected. So that's not something you'll get out of me if I'm on the council. But volunteerism, some of the greatest things we do in this community are done by volunteers. Look at Janice Easley, the band show, things like the 527 Cannonball, the Prairie Playground, the dog park issue. So I think we need to promote more volunteerism. And 2 things that I would do if I was elected is to suggest and push for 2 different task forces to be committed, or to be formed. One, I think would be very important, is on transportation. We constantly hear we're at the crossroads of 2 major intersections, so why isn't someone just planning a new industrial plant here? We're a great location, but I don't think we can just chase smokestacks. I think we need to look into our transportation needs and see what we could be doing to be more business friendly, and put a task force of volunteers together, people from places like the DOT and people who are experts in this area, and appoint some people to look at what could we be doing as a council to improve our transportation for the businesses and the people in Mason City. So that's one task force that I think would be good to look into. Another one that's been done in a couple different communities that's made a big difference in Dubuque and Austin, Minnesota, is appointing a task force to look into different green initiatives and doing this at no cost to the taxpayers. There's so many state grants, federal grants, and money out there to do different green initiatives in our communities, and I think a lot of those are overlooked. We did an event at our farm, a renewable energy fair, and talked about all the different ways you can access state money and federal money and things that can make a difference. We put up a wind turbine on our farm that powers our farm and our house, and there's ways to look into this and find those opportunities without raising taxes. And I think some citizens should be appointed to look into that as well. So those are two ways I think we could increase our volunteerism and get people looking some ideas that could benefit Mason City. The third is enriching quality of life amenities. I think that's something we're doing good. There's Colin's talking now. But increasing the quality of life amenities, I think we're really on the cusp of some great things right now. Finishing the Right on the Park, the streetscape, library, interpretive center. There's a lot of things that we can say to businesses. Look at the amenities that we have, and look at the community that we have, and it's a progressive community, and does it without raising taxes on people. And the last one is advocating for a sound city budget, and this is something city, county, state, federal government that we all hear. People have been taxed enough. I shouldn't use that term. I'm not a Tea Party member. don't take that. But people don't want to see their taxes raised, and that's something. All of these issues, you need to be able to make calculated risk and see if there's a return on investment to the community. But do it without raising taxes on people in our community. So that's something that will always be in my mind when making decisions if I was elected. So that's a little bit about my ideas. I'll be laying out some more throughout the campaign. And before I turn it over to the most important part, listening to your ideas, just want to share one quick story. When I started the campaign, I thought I had a lot of support and people behind me. But this story really, I think about every day when I want to work a little bit harder. I sent out a mailing to people just saying I will be running, here's some ideas, and a couple days later I received a letter back from a 91-year-old woman. I won't use her name, she asked to remain anonymous, but she said there was $5 in the envelope. It was a $5 contribution. Said, I'm 91 years old and I want to see a council that works for me and get some things done before I leave this place. So, and she said, I really hope that you're someone that can bring people together and get things done. So that sticks with me every day, and something that again, kind of to the shave quote I was talking about. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and for the people of Mason City. So, enough for me. I have my notepad. I'm very interested to hear your ideas, suggestions, thoughts, questions you have of me. So, enjoy your coffee and fire away. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you think about the idea of exploring the fiber optics for Mason City to attract different technology, different businesses?
I think that's something I hadn't thought about, and I think that's a great idea. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if that's something that we've done at the city level, if there'd be a state level issue, but obviously something kind of a wave of the future, that we need progressive ideas like that to attract businesses that need those infrastructure needs. But no, and just to add on to that, I don't have all the answers by any means, and that's why I'm here to get your ideas, but I think that's a fabulous idea. I don't know if that would be something that would be looked into at the city level or not, but
I don't know either, but I thought having a fiber optics network in the town would be very attractive to other businesses.
Thank you. Questions, thoughts?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
One is your age, which I think is a positive, but obviously in Mason City, a lot of our population is older. Could you talk about maybe a couple things that, from a young person standpoint, that you can do to help bridge that gap and bring more, positiveness to young versus old, and how that should be a positive, not a negative?
Yeah, and I think that's an issue in any community in Iowa, where, and especially here in Mason City, we have an aging population. There's more people my parents' age than my age in Mason City, and a lot of them are going to be retiring out of the workforce. And currently, the trend is not showing young people my age coming to Mason City, replacing those jobs. So we do need to look into ways we can entice young people to come back. I don't know if that's people straight out of college or people more they've settled down and been married and not looking for a full-time position. But absolutely, I've been part of a group called North Iowa Connect that's doing things just like that and looking into different amenities for young people, social gatherings, and just networking with people and finding their ideas and what do they want in Mason City. And one of my biggest goals later will be to have one of the biggest voter turnouts in Mason City, and whether they vote for me or not, I don't care. But just, I think it's important to get young people out.
I do.
I guess I do. But I think it's extremely important because, and it's people's right not to vote. I mean, everyone has a right to vote, but if they don't like the candidates, they don't have to vote. But I think it's important, especially young people. Unfortunately, trends show they do not vote in large numbers, and I think that's important. I'm going to be going out and talking to younger groups about getting to the polls and finding their best candidate. But that's definitely an issue as far as replacing those workers, those baby boomers that will be aging out of the workforce here shortly, and bringing people in my age to replace those jobs. I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay,
Is there
I'll ask
another
another
one?
one. You know I would, right? Yeah, you know, what you mentioned, the haves versus the have-nots, the divisiveness, the business versus, you know, the employee, all of those types of things with economic development being so important that we have to kind of, you know, rising tide lifts all boats. Do you have any specific ideas or how we're going to address that to really educate people that really businesses is really the vitality of our community, and without it, it's not good?
Absolutely. That's something I was just talking to another service club about this, and I'll bring up the multi-purpose center issue. I think that's one where, unfortunately, people think there's going to be a winner and there's a loser on this issue, and I think there's a lot of issues where they can be win-wins. It doesn't have to be, say, multi-purpose center goes up. Necessarily, there's going to be an increased tax, and I think we need to look into ways to do projects like that that benefits everyone. And I'm not saying I'm fully supportive of the multi-purpose center, but I think that's just a perfect example of something we need to look into. Do a feasibility study, get cost estimates, find if there is a way to do this without having heavily subsidized by the city, and be a win-win for everyone, be an attraction for people to come to Mason City. We're kind of the regional hub of North Iowa, a way to have another amenity for businesses to look at, and have an entertainment source for that younger group. But again, that's an issue. We got to make sure that the numbers are right before we go ahead. But that's just one example of something where I don't think there necessarily has to be a winner and a loser on issues. I mean, there could be a lot of win-wins out there. Alan?
There's been some scuttlebutt on this in the city council when projects are brought up about something going on in Clear Lake or Manly, getting upset that those communities have those projects. Well, we benefit from it. Is that your position?
Yeah, I mean, it's regional. I'd be a Mason City Councilman, but I mean, there's a lot of regional issues. Look at our economic development group. It's a Mason City, Clear Lake, Saragordo County group. Projects like Mitas in Charles City, the Czech Republic tire plant. I mean, people from there may live in Mason City and pay property taxes here. So, but of course, we want to look at projects and land them here in Mason City and have them be positives to other regions. But absolutely, it's more than just Mason City issues. It's a regional approach to a lot of things now. Yeah.
And this might go along with her idea of fiber optics, but at one point in time there was a supposed going to be someone that would rival Mediacom, so that you don't have to have a satellite dish to have something other than Mediacom for high-speed internet. Don't know where that goes, don't have any ideas where it could go, but it would be awfully nice to have something besides having to have a dish on top of your house or on the side of your house. micro run-ons are what you need or what your issues include. There just needs to be some other form of communication and competition because they decide they want to raise it another $25 a month, then they just go right ahead and do it.
Yeah, and all I can say to that is I think competition brings out the best, and no matter what the situation is. As far as specifics about that, I don't have any answers for it, but I think it's a good point. Anybody else?
One thing I've noticed kind of with the current city council is kind of how meetings are run and interaction. You know, if you were elected, how would you interact with others on the city council? And many times you and maybe with those you don't agree with.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue. And again, I'm not going to say a bad word about any city councilman. I have great respect for anyone that throws their hat in public service. But like I've said, I've talked to, since I've announced, I think I've talked to everyone on the council, the mayor. I've been trying to track him down. I haven't got a hold of him yet, but I've told him, hey, if I get elected, I look forward to working with you. I looked him in the eye and said, I'm not going to agree with you all the time, but I'm going to respect you and respect your opinions and treat you civilly. And at the end of the day, it's about what's best for the city. So, but yeah, it's definitely an issue. I mean, it's no secret that it can definitely be a detriment to progress when we're bickering and name calling when we should be talking about issues. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but I mean, it's like anything. It's in business and in relationships. You're going to disagree with people. You just take the high road and treat people with respect and never burn bridges. Yes.
I've lived in a lot of different cities and a lot of different towns, but I've lived here for 19 years, and this has been my biggest pet peeve for 19 years, so I'm going to give it to you to solve. Right-hand turn lanes.
I'm sorry?
Right-hand turn lanes. I would just like to see some more right-hand turn lanes. You know, like you're coming off of, what is it, Eisenhower, and you want to go to the movie theater. Right-hand turn lanes.
Maybe that's something this Citizen Task Force looking at transportation issues could be looking at. So, a few weeks ago, 2 days before I announced, I wish I was in a right-hand turning lane when someone rear-ended me. So. I agree with you on that.
TIF,
Yes.
you mentioned that as one of the things that we, throw away around terms like that. And I don't even understand, and I'm sure most of the average people in town don't understand that. How can we use that, and what are your ideas? What do you know about that to really enhance, what we can, businesses and things we can bring to North Iowa?
TIF, tax increment financing, is definitely one tool in the toolbox for local governments to use to entice economic development, and it's something you have to make sure you don't TIF the whole community, because but in Mason City, I think what the council recently did, we had a lot of, I think it was 6, maybe 7 different TIF districts, and they all had different, I believe they were all 20-year TIF, but all had different expiration dates. Some had 6 years left, some had 12, and it was tough talking to businesses about, we have TIF district here, and another one over here, and one here, and consolidating those and putting a same time frame on those, and being able to draw monies from those TIF districts will make it easier and simpler for people like Brett Willett at the EDC to talk to potential businesses who could use that TIF money and that increment that it increases from the surrounding properties. And again, this is a tough one for people to grasp. Even for me, sometimes I get confused talking about TIF. But it's something, again, where it's a tool we can use for economic development, but there are communities around us that had better TIF districts, let's just say, and we're using those to their advantage, and I think Mason City is on the right path consolidating those. Is there any coffee left over there for me?
Just want a regular break?
Yeah, thank you.
Small one?
Any other thoughts, ideas, questions? Hope I'm doing a decent job answering them for you.
My question?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, I know there's buses that run on weekdays. Have they ever thought about running on weekends? As far as just getting around town?
I do not have. I do not know. That's something I could find the answer for you and get back. What I can say, I know when I worked at United Way, we put up 5 bus shelters on the bus route, and my memory, thank you very much, reminds me. No, I'm not going to say because I'm not sure if they do run on the weekend. I'm just not exactly sure on that. But there are 5 United Way bus stop enclosed areas for winter months, so people can access those bus routes.
I was thinking the door-to-door transit though.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Again, don't have the answer to that
Right.
one,
I
but
just thought I would
can find something like that out for you if you put your contact information. I can get back to you.
Great.
You bet. Anything else?
What's the best way to contact you if we have questions or ideas?
Yes, and before you leave, please grab, Nick, raise your hand with that. Grab one of those that has my phone number. It's always right on my if I don't answer it, I can get back to you. I have an email, alex@kuhnforcouncil.org. I have a Facebook page that I try to update with events and ideas and places I'll be in town. Yeah, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. So yeah, make sure and grab an informational sheet that it talks a little bit about my background and ideas and probably explains it better than I did today, so make sure and grab one on the way out.
I appreciated Facebook. That's how I found out about this event.
Good. And hey, one of my New Year's resolutions was to meet as many people that are friends or like my page on Facebook that I've never met. And I think I checked off about 7 or 8 today, so that's good. Meet a lot of you guys.
How much fundraising do you think you need, or where do you need to be?
I think probably a lot of people in the room know I sent out a letter just saying, requesting small donations from people. I don't have a hard figure. The thing with city elections, there's no PAC money, there's no corporate money. It's all individuals and citizens, and I'm proud to have every single one of the contributions that I have so far, and anyone that would consider donating. So I won't give a plug for a PO box number or anything. Hey, I greatly appreciate everybody coming out. Hopefully I did a good job talking about some of these issues and answer some of your questions. And have a great weekend. Hope to see you guys tonight down at Des Moines for the Mohawk game. It's quite as humid, so have a great weekend. Thank you.